Let's read some more Disney books that aren't part of the Twisted Tales or Villain series. I think I might be obsessed with that. I became a little bit obsessed with it. I love me a good fairy tale retelling, so this week we're going to try to read as many of them as possible. So to kick things off, I think I'm going to start with Heart of the Raven Prince by Tessandra Odette. In my last Disney book video, I read Curse of the Wolf King by this author, and this one was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I absolutely loved it, so I really want to read the rest of the series. This one, I believe, is a Cinderella retelling, so I'm super excited, and now let's dive in. No, she did not. Oh, I miss Gemma. After everything we've done for you, it's the least you can do for us. Are you kidding me? What do you mean she's selfish? She's at your beck and call. You're the selfish one. Good morning, friends. I am 42% of the way through Heart of the Raven Prince by Tessandra Odette. Now, let me try to tell you what this book is about without spoiling anything because I'm not sure what's actually included in the synopsis. But anyway, the book follows Amber, and can I just say that I love that the author went for a name like Amber. It's not too on the nose, but it's still a Cinderella-inspired name, and I love it. Anyway, so Amber is an orphan, but she's in this bargain with her stepfamily to serve them until her 19th birthday. Now, Amber and her family are expected to attend this big ball that is the beginning of the social season in the lunar court, and the goal is to marry off one of the sisters to the prince, right? So it has this very Cinderella-esque energy to it. Amber ends up unexpectedly meeting the prince prior to this event, and she kind of hates him. This meeting is very rocky, I guess. The prince does not give off a great first impression, but because of that, Amber doesn't really want to attend the ball, but she has to in order for her sisters to attend. And at this ball, again, she meets the prince, but he is under disguise, and so is she, so they don't know who the other person is, and there's this immediate connection between the two of them. Now, after that, I'm not going to tell you what happens because I feel like it might be headed into spoiler territory, but I've loved every second of this book so far. It's been so entertaining. It has kept me on my toes the entire time. Like, I definitely hate the stepmother in this, and I feel like Tessandra Odette has done a great job writing off a great villain. It also gives off Bridgerton-esque vibes, and if you're looking for something that is a little bit more tame than Bridgerton, but you like the vibes of it, this definitely has a similar vibe. I think in the original listing on Amazon, the author says that it's a Bridgerton meets ACOTAR book, and I totally agree that it has kind of this Bridgerton-esque vibe with like the social season and like the balls and whatnot, but it still has that very fae vibe that ACOTAR or just like any, honestly, romantasy book gives off. I really enjoyed the writing of this. I feel like it's really easy to power through. I'm really enthralled by the whole storyline, and like I said, I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time. The author keeps throwing unexpected plot twist after unexpected plot twist. It's a super engaging story, and so far I'm having a great time. I feel like I could definitely binge this today. It's also a snow day. Like, it has finally snowed again. I've been wanting some snow for a couple of days now because I put up my Christmas tree and everything, and I wanted to get in the Christmas spirit, but for some reason, like, the weather wasn't reflecting that, and now it has, and I'm just like, it's perfect reading weather. So today the plan is to maybe finish this. I honestly think it could be realistic for me to do that because I have been really binging this book, and so I feel like I could just bang one out, read it in one sitting and be done with it. I love this series. It's really reminding me a lot of Curse of the Wolf King, which I absolutely loved. This one is not giving as strong winter vibes as the first book did, but I think it's a perfect like anytime read. I think a fairy tale retelling for some reason for me is very winter-esque, but yeah, so far I'm loving this and I cannot wait to continue reading. finished reading Heart of the Raven Prince and I had such an incredible time. I love the direction that the book went into. I feel like the author kept throwing unexpected plot twists, but that made sense within the story. It just kept me on my toes and engaged. I just wanted to continue reading. And it's one thing that I'm really loving about this author's work so far. She knows how to keep her readers engaged and want to keep reading more. In this one, I particularly liked the fact that we had a dual perspective, because in the first book, I felt like it was lacking. I wanted to be a little bit more in the MMC's head to really understand the connection between the two protagonists. But in this one, I love how we had a balance between both Amber's and Franco's chapters. It really allowed me to better understand both of them as characters, but also their connection. I was here for it. Like, I really loved both of them. I love how Amber was a strong, solid female character. Reminded me a lot of Gemma in the previous book, actually, but obviously they're different characters. But I love how so far she makes her female characters really strong-headed. And then Franco, I really feel like we got to understand him and we saw him open up. Like, we really saw him work through his own issues, and I really appreciated it. Overall, I had an amazing time. Highly recommend this whole series. So far, I've been loving it, and I can tell that I'm gonna be obsessed. And I'm really curious to pick up the next book, actually, because there were crumbs that were left throughout the story of this one. Seeing this epilogue especially, I was like, ooh, I wonder what will happen in the next book. And now I am very excited to pick it up. I believe this next one is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see how this one will come to life. Before I forget, my rating for this one is a 4.5 stars. It didn't give me 5-star vibes, but it was honestly such a solid read. Just as good as the first one. And I gave that one a 4.5 out of 5 stars, so it makes sense that I'm giving it the same rating. Highly recommend. So freaking good. Now, I'll admit, reading this book has made me want to reread The Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. It's one of my all-time favorite series, and like, it would be, I think, my third or fourth time reading it if I were to start a reread. Like, there were elements in this book that reminded me a lot of that book, and it just made me crave getting back into this universe. But I know I can't, because if I start that, I'm just gonna throw everything else out the window, and my goal is to discover new books to recommend to you guys and not necessarily reread one of my favorite series. But let me know if that's something that you would like to see in the near future, because I would be so down to do a reread. I think one of the things that kind of triggered this one for a reread is the lunar court aspect. It wasn't necessarily super explored in this book, but that has reminded me of the setting of the Lunar Chronicles. Like, parts of it takes place on the moon and whatnot. Like, the moon plays a big part of it. And as much as like those two settings and like the whole idea behind them is very different, for some reason I made a connection. And then obviously this being a Cinderella retelling and then Cinder being a Cinderella retelling, there were similarities in like the tropes and the storyline, because obviously you can't really escape it. Oh my god, I want to do a reread. I can't. Okay, anyway, I am going to take a break from reading, try to find something else to read that is not the Lunar Chronicles, and I'll come back to you once I've made my decision. So as you may be able to tell, I'm currently not home. I'm at my parents' place. It wasn't the plan, but we're just gonna roll with it. Anyway, I decided to start Kiss of the Selkie by Tessanja Odette. I was having such a great time with this series. I was like, you know what? Let me just pick up the next book and keep the ball rolling. So I'm currently 30% of the way through that one. And let me read you the synopsis, because I am not sure how I can describe what this book is about. It's a little bit all over the place, and I feel like it would just be better for me to read the synopsis from Goodreads. So let me do that real quick. So it says, A Little Mermaid retelling. A handsome fugitive seeking a marriage of convenience. A Selkie with a lethal kiss sent to seal his fate. To evade a vicious sea queen's clutches, Selkie Maisie, who is our Ariel in this scenario, hides on land, surviving as a thief. But when she rescues a human from drowning and illegally brings them to shore, she must answer for breaking Fae law. As punishment, she'll have to hunt down the man she saved and kiss him. But with a kiss that can kill, Maisie's mission means more than seduction. It means murder. Kind of cool, right? Son of a notorious Fae killer, Dorian was never meant to survive the shipwreck that was orchestrated to assassinate him. Now that he's on the Forbidden Fae Isle, he'll do anything to gain citizenship, even marry a Fae bride. Desperate for a hasty marriage, he holds a bridal competition in the Isle's most theatrical city, where displays of frivolity aren't just encouraged, they're expected. And if Maisie can act like a proper debutante and join the pageantry, she'll get near enough to deliver her fatal kiss. But getting close to her target brings complications she did not expect. As she pretends to compete for Dorian's heart, it starts to feel less like an act and more like falling in love. If Maisie doesn't deliver her kiss by sunrise on the last day of the competition, she forfeits her life. But if she succeeds, Dorian dies. When the pageant ends, will there be a true victor or only deaths and broken hearts? So I feel like this is doing a pretty good job at summarizing what the book is about, but if I'm trying to get the words out, I feel like it started all over the place. I did not really know where this was going until like the page mark that I just hit, which brought me to 30%. I just didn't know from the get-go where this book was going. Even this being a Little Mermaid retelling, I just felt like the plot didn't have a strong direction, but now I have a better idea what the story will entail, and I can get on board with that. I will admit, so far, I haven't been as, I guess, interested in the book as I thought I would be, given how much I've enjoyed the previous two. It's taking me a while to get into it. I'm not really warming up to Maisie as a character compared to like the previous two female main characters that we had. I feel like Maisie is a little bit hard for me to get behind, and I'm not sure why. I just don't really feel that connection with her. And then Dorian, we know nothing about so far. We've seen them on page, but she hasn't had any interactions with him, or barely, and we don't have any chapters from his POV, which I would be very intrigued. I hope as the story progresses that we get at least a couple chapters from his perspective, because I feel like he is a closed book. Like, I have no idea what I can expect out of him, so I really want to see where the story will go. And I think maybe as it progresses, as we really get into this pageantry situation, I think I may start warming up to both of our characters. So far I don't feel anything towards either of them, or even like, I like the setting, but I don't really feel anything regarding the story. I feel like I'm not really invested. I could easily DNF right now, which tells me that maybe I should. I want to give this book a fair shot because I have a feeling I may end up enjoying it given how much I've enjoyed the previous two, but so far it's a gamble. I'm not sure how I'm going to land on this one. Hopefully I'll get better from here. I still love the writing, but I do find that in terms of the characters, I'm not sure if it's the storyline or just the fact that the characters feel distant, but I'm just really not invested in the story. So I'm gonna give myself like until the midway point to decide whether or not I'm DNFing or if I am continuing. I think this could get better, but at the same time, who knows, right? I do think there are a lot of interesting elements at play, like the fact that her kiss can kill, and like the whole world building and the whole pageantry situation. I feel like this could make this more fun, but so far I'm not sure where we're headed. So I guess I'll have to keep reading and get back to you guys once I have made up my mind on how I feel about this book. So you know how in my last update I said, oh, I'll read up until the 50% mark and decide whether I want to DNF this book or not. Well, I actually ended up finishing it. So it's been a few days since my last update. Life has been a little bit crazy in an unexpected way, but it's fine. We're still getting some reading done, even though I haven't been able to update as much. Well, I have finished the book, as I said, and I'm not really sure how to feel about it because while I did not DNF the book in the end, I think I'm settling on a 3-star rating. Let me explain myself. The first half was kind of boring and dragging, and I didn't see the appeal. I almost DNF'd several times, but there were always like little things that kept piquing my curiosity, and I was like, oh, I wonder how that'll turn out in the end. So it kept me reading, and then the second half, it definitely improved, but I did have still some issues with it. For instance, the romance for me was way underdeveloped. I feel like the first half was dragging, and then the second half we tried to pile all of the romance in about 200 pages, and it felt very out of balance because, to be honest, I think this book would have benefited from being from a dual perspective, because I felt like Dorian, our love interest, was a piece of bland cardboard. Even towards the end, like, it starts to open up, I want to say at the 65 or 70% mark. That's not enough to get me to be invested in this relationship. I wanted to learn more from his point of view and just like invest myself a little bit more in him, like just see myself rooting for them. I lacked a connection with both of the characters, but especially Dorian. And even towards the end, the romance felt really underbaked for me. I just feel like, yes, okay, they were cute and everything, but it was very underwhelming. And it's not that I'm reading this just for the romance, but this plot, this whole idea is that they are supposed to fall in love. And so I feel like the author should have put more effort into developing at least the male character, because if you're not rooting for the couple, then what's the point of reading, you know? So I'll admit that I struggled quite a bit with this book, and then the plot itself was all over the place. Like, the whole pageant thing felt very, I don't know, underwhelming. I have no other words to explain it. I've read quite a few actually books that have a kind of contest to win like the prince or the male's heart at the end, and this one is probably my least favorite that I've read. I've read so many good ones where like there's challenges and there's more things to it than just like, oh, you have to forge a connection with him, which makes sense, but I wanted a little bit more excitement in terms of the plot, especially since the romance was lacking. I was like, at least give me an interesting and engaging plot, but it was not the case here. I felt so underwhelmed by the entire thing. Yes, Yes, there were moments that I did enjoy, especially towards the end. I feel like as the characters were connecting and just getting to know each other a little bit better, I felt like I was more invested in their story, and that's why I finished reading it in the end. But I don't know, I enjoyed part of it, but it's my least favorite in the series, definitely. I wouldn't say it's not a good Little Mermaid retelling. There are definitely a lot of nods to the original tale, and even in terms of the Disney movie, you will see a lot of similarities between the two, but I wanted a little bit more out of it, and unfortunately this one was lacking, especially considering that I've loved the first two books so much. This one was just a little bit meh in my opinion, and it's probably because I had expectations. If I hadn't read the other two first, I probably would have enjoyed this more, but in this case, unfortunately, it was kind of a miss. I did enjoy, like I said, part of it, but it wasn't as incredible as the first two. I'll say that. Anyway, now that I've finished this book, I think I'm gonna continue and just binge this entire series because the next two books are also Disney retellings of some sort. So the next one is actually a Snow White retelling. It's called A Taste for Poison or A Taste of Poison. I'm not sure. You'll see the cover on the screen, but I am quite excited about it because we've seen the huntsman in this one. It was briefly mentioned. So I think in each book, she always leaves a little bit of crumbs in the previous story. Even though they're all interconnected standalones, you will always see a little bit of a nod in other books. So it's fun if you read them in order or even out of order to just see where the story begins. And so in this one, I'm not too sure what the whole story is about. So I'll have to start reading in order to get back to you. But the only thing that I know is that it's a Snow White retelling. So hopefully I will enjoy this one more than I did this one. I can't tell if this lighting is terrible or not, but hopefully it'll do for this update. I am 21% into A Taste of Poison, and already I can tell you I am obsessed. I started reading this and already from page one, I was more engaged in the story. It sucked me in right away. I love the characters, I love the premise, I love the setting. I'm just really enjoying myself, and I find that there's an improvement from the last book already, at least in my opinion. The story follows Astrid, who is on the run from the queen, who is her stepmother, because the queen believes that Astrid has killed her father. Now, I got to chapter 2 and then we get a dual POV. Plot twist, it's the huntsman. And so you're telling me that this is a romance between Snow White and the huntsman? Say less. I'm sad. I'm so obsessed with this. I just love the fact that first we have a dual POV, because that was something that was lacking for me in the previous book. And I find that so far, my favorite books in this series are the ones that include a dual POV, except for the first book, which I did really like. But I did feel like we benefited from having a dual POV. And in this case, I feel like it's even stronger. I feel like it's easier for me to establish this connection. When I tell you that, like, I haven't been able to put this book down, like, granted, okay, I have been making very slow progress, but nevertheless, when I'm reading, I am sad, especially this last scene that I read. She had to basically get these keys because they're cuffed together for some reason. I won't get into the antics of it, but they're cuffed together, and he tells her, like, come and get the keys. And the keys are in his underwear. But now it's at a point where their lives are in danger and she has to get the keys. So she has to go in, and oh my God, I loved it. It was so silly, goofy, but I'm having a great time. So far, I'm really enjoying the turns and the twists of the story. I feel like they have great banter already. This story already has so many cool elements. Like, for instance, Astrid is a mirror. What that means is that people who see her, they can't really see her face. They only see reflected either their best or their worst qualities depending on her mood. Let's say I am a mirror, you would see me in a different way that someone else would see me. So there's no one who can really tell what she looks like, except her father, who could, but now he's dead. But I find it so fascinating how the author has managed to include such a important component of the Snow White tale, right? Like, we know the mirror is an important character in the story, but she did twist it on its head and basically gave it an entirely new meaning. So I really like that about it. And then the setting is very interesting because Astrid is staying in this hotel that's basically called the Seven Sins Hotel, something like that. But there are different, like, buildings within this resort, and each building is catered after a sin. So, like, we have lust, we have sloth, we have gluttony. So it's been very interesting to read about because I love me a good Seven Sins situation. Like, I don't know why, I just really enjoy that when it's thrown into a fantasy setting. So far, this has been so fun. I don't even care that I'm filming this in the exact same spot that I was in last time because we have a new 5-star read. When I tell you, I am obsessed with this book. I absolutely adored it. It is by far my favorite Snow White retelling that I've read and the most imaginative one that I've read thus far. For sure. I love how the author managed to integrate all of the basic elements that you would see in a Snow White retelling. She took all of the things she had to from the original tale, but then added a fun twist to it. Just really enjoyed the way that she wrote this. It was so fun, so engaging all the way through. I was hung on every word. I just really enjoyed this. I ate this up. It was so freaking good. And I will say this one is more romance heavy than the previous books in the series, but personally I loved it. I eat that shit up every time. So for me it was perfect, but it might not be for everyone. For me, I just really enjoyed it for what it was, which was a really well-crafted story with a more romantic heavy plot. I loved it. Honestly, you guys, I don't even know what else to say because it was so perfect. Like the characters, the setting, the magic system, the plot, no critiques. So good. 10 out of 10. Anyway, so initially I was planning on filming this video for a week, right? So we're on day 7 and my week has not been going as planned. I was not planning on being here for starters, but then also it just hasn't really been as great of a reading week as I wanted to. I also feel like right now my attention span is non-existent because of Vlogmas. Like everyone's uploading all the fucking time and I love it. But yeah, that does mean that I am watching content a lot more than I am reading or creating my own content. Anyway, so I have decided to keep on giving and read the last book in the series. I'm going to be reading A Dream So Wicked regardless of the time frame here. I had kind of given myself the mission of reading that entire series anyway in this vlog, so might as well just stick to the plan even if it takes a little bit longer than expected. So we're going to be reading the last book, A Dream So Wicked, which is a Sleeping Beauty retelling. Now we've met the FMC for this book in book 3, so I'm curious to see how it's gonna go because so far I have no idea what the story is about. I know the story of Sleeping Beauty, but I don't know how the author will put it off, especially after loving A Taste of Poison. I've heard really good things about this last book, so I am hopeful that I will enjoy it as well. But yeah, let's dive into our last book for this vlog. Excuse me? Are you telling me that this is gonna be a romance between Sleeping Beauty and the dragon? Yes, please. Hi. So I actually finished reading A Dream So Wicked. Now, I know I was supposed to update you as I was reading. I became a little bit obsessed with it and could not put the book down, and therefore now we're done. But as you may imagine, we have a new 5-star read on our hand and I'm so incredibly excited. Now let me tell you what this book is about. Basically, it's a true enemies to lovers situation. We have 2 rival families and there's a curse placed upon both of them. If they try to hurt each other and shed blood, well, they will be put under a death-like sleep for 100 years. Now, through events that happen in the story, both of these families are now put under this curse, except for our 2 protagonists. So they decide to team up together to try to break this curse. Their relationship starts as a reluctant alliance and then evolves into friendship and eventually love. Let me tell you, I just love them. I am so obsessed with them. I just loved every second of this book. I ate it up. I could not put it down. It was just so freaking good. I love how Tessandra Odette always manages to make these imaginative retellings. I find that even though it's a Sleeping Beauty retelling, it didn't follow the regular narrative arc that you would expect out of such a retelling. And I really appreciate that about it. It makes it less boring in a way. It makes it unexpected and new and fun while keeping this very fairy tale-like quality and still being comforting because you know this world, you know these characters in a way because you're used to the Sleeping Beauty aspect, and I just love how she manages to integrate those into her stories. So far, like, I've been obsessed with her retellings and this one is no different. I particularly loved the connection that developed between our 2 protagonists. I love both of them so much and I'm so glad that we had a dual POV in this because it made the connection much stronger on both sides. I just felt like I connected and I could understand the characters because I was in their heads. I understood why they acted the way they did with each other. It just made me enjoy and appreciate the whole romance part even more so. I feel like this one, compared to the last one that was a little bit more romance heavy, this one is still the same, but I feel like it's more yearning heavy compared to the last one. I don't know how to explain it. I just really loved it. It was refreshing, but kind of similar at the same time in terms of the feelings that it evoked in me. I never know how to talk about 5 stars because I'm just like obsessed with it, and I loved every single second of it. Like, read this. It was so freaking good, and I'm so glad that I have now read this entire series. So now that brings me to the end of this video. I have had so much fun reading this series. Honestly, I'm so glad that I finally picked it up because this was something that I've heard about in the past, but I did not necessarily put on my priority list. But honestly, so fun. Highly recommend, especially if you like fairy tale retellings, Disney, Bridgerton, all of that. I think you're gonna love this. It's so well written. I really enjoyed it. Yes, it's a little bit more into new adult territory, a little bit less YA, but overall, absolutely adored it. And I'm so glad that I've read this series now. So to make this fun, I thought we could rank the books in this series because I would recommend them all. Honestly, pick anyone you want in any order that you want. You don't have to have read one book before the other because they're all interconnected standalones. But I figured it would be fun to just rank the books in order from my least favorite to my favorite. So let's do this. At number 5, we have Kiss of the Selkie. I think this is not gonna come across as a surprise since this is the one that I enjoyed the least, and you've seen that in this reading vlog. It's not a bad retelling, but it's the one that I found myself not connecting as much to, especially because I didn't get enough of the male's POV. I think that would have elevated the reading experience for me, and unfortunately it fell short because of that. At number 4, I think I'm gonna put Heart of the Raven Prince. Now, this is an excellent retelling, but I will say I've loved all of these books, so it's kind of hard for me. Like, the top 4 are very hard for me to rank, but I think in terms of how I felt reading it, I think Heart of the Raven Prince fits at this slot. It was so good, honestly. It made me want to reread the Lunar Chronicles. And oh, one thing that I forgot to mention, A Dream So Wicked kind of reinforced that wanting, that yearning for a Lunar Chronicles reread, because the MMC's name was Thorn, and like, if you know, you know. And now I'm like, yeah, I think this may be happening in our near future. So let me know if this is something you'd like me to vlog, but otherwise, yeah, I think the reread is gonna happen regardless of whether I include it in content or not. Anyway, Heart of the Raven Prince is at number 4. At number 3, I'm gonna put Curse of the Wolf King. This is the one that introduced me to the series, and I really loved it. I really liked the fact that it was a fun take on the Beauty and the Beast story, which is my personal favorite, like, Disney story as a whole. I really enjoyed it. I thought the setting of this one was super solid. It made me want to read it on a cozy winter day. I would highly recommend it. And then the top 2 are difficult for me. I'm not gonna lie. I think at number 2, I'm gonna put A Dream So Wicked because I really enjoyed it. But number 1 has to go to A Taste of Poison. For some reason, this one like just had me giggling and kicking my feet, whereas A Dream So Wicked did not, but it still had those feelings of, oh my god, I'm obsessed with them, but not in the same way. So I think A Taste of Poison goes to number 1, but honestly, the top 2 are equal in my heart. Love them both so freaking much, and I'm so glad that I have read the series. Now that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As usual, if you have any Disney book or fairy tale retelling recommendations that you'd like me to check out, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. And I guess that's it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!